Welcome to Sound Vitality. I'm Richard Lee with Maria Gonzalez, and we're going to be talking about how best to utilize the Liberator. I'm the Director of Sound Vitality and Director of Research, been involved in developing these different products, and the Liberator is quite a powerful one and valuable to use. So what we're going to present to you today is how best to apply it, and we're going to start with applying it to the front of the body, and then we're going to move on to the back of the body. So we're going to go more covering the body parts this time as we go through this. So, Maria, at any time, feel free to pop in and ask any questions or make any suggestions you like. Okay, we're going to start with limiting attachments. This is the Liberator, the Infratonic S, and we've talked before about how to approach limiting attachments. First, what are they? They can be called limiting beliefs, but we're calling them limiting attachments because they're more things that we've grasped onto and hold on to. Things like, I don't deserve, I need to suffer in order to make money. A whole variety of things like that. So there are things we grab onto that restrict our power. And the way this works is, I'm going to move the camera down, so we're going to see some belly here. Okay, the energy starts at the first chakra and comes up into the second chakra. The left and right side differentiated. Left side goes to assimilation, desires, what we're attached to, what we want to bring closer to us. And the right side, with the liver and the gallbladder, is more burning away, identifying those things that we want to move away from us, aversions, things that we want to destroy. And so the left side is the sympathetic side, the right side is the attacking, angry side. And then we come to this third chakra, the whole diaphragm area. This is where we say no. When we say no, I don't deserve, it's too easy, I can't allow it. Whatever my limiting attachments are, I stop it right here. I limit that flow of creative energy into my body and to express through my throat into the world right here by saying no. So the Infratonic S applied to this area will tend to dissolve those limiting attachments. Apply it to one point along the diaphragm and leave it there for about a minute, feeling what you feel. You'll feel probably a little bit of tension or discomfort or something, and breathe it out. And spend about a minute on each point as you go across. And I'm going far faster than you would go, of course, and just feel what you feel in there, feel it dissolving and softening, and breathe it out. You can also go around the back. So go all the way around the diaphragm. Wherever you feel any restriction, limitation, discomfort, hold it there for a little while and just breathe out. You might find something that's really tough. You might spend 3 or 4 minutes at a place just breathing and breathing until it's gone. Or you might have some thought or emotion and feel some discomfort along your diaphragm. Then you can apply it and breathe out. Okay, we're going to come back up to me, or rather the top of me. And to breathe out, basically, if you make your mouth in as if it's holding a straw, and breathe out any uncomfortable energies, sticky energies, heavy, whatever the pains, whatever they are, just breathe them out with some force, with the restricted mouth, so that you're getting some force out there to help the breath carry that old energy out and out of your body.
What is the best setting to release limiting attachments?
Oh, okay.
The signal.
The best signal to release limiting attachments is the melt signal. So that's the top one, and if you set it on the melt, that'll work very well. And when you get into things up in the chest, constricted emotions in the chest, you'll want to use the heart setting. It's better for more emotional stuff. But generally, for most of the applications today, we're going to be using the melt setting. Okay, and next we're going to talk about clearing the sympathetic nervous system. We have a central nervous system that runs right along our spine, and on either side of it, there are two additional spinal or nerve cords that run on either side of the spine, and those are the sympathetic nervous system, and it is programmed with lots of automatic reactive responses. The fight or flight response, the left side, the assimilative side, is the sympathetic. I want to establish relationships. I want to protect myself by establishing relationships with other people. And the right side is, I want to protect myself by destroying obstacles. So these two sides are essentially the fight or flight response, and it's automatic unconscious reactiveness, which is often nice to dissolve. So again, the Liberator is great for this if you apply it again to a point along the sympathetic nervous system and gradually go down 30 seconds to a minute on each point, and just go down all along the sympathetic nervous system. It starts up here at the collarbone and goes down to just below the diaphragm, a couple inches below the diaphragm, and then apply it to the other side and do the same thing. You'll find that a whole lot of your reactivity, the fight or flight type unconscious nervous reactivity, tends to dissipate. So this is a very good application for the Liberator. Okay, so now we're going to go on to another area, which is the lower belly. What's stored in the lower belly and what can we liberate? Well, on the right side of the belly, there is, let's take a look at the belly again. Okay, there's the belly. Okay, this is the right side of the belly. And over here, again, the liver and gallbladder, we store a lot of rage, clear down deep into the, even into the leg. So this whole area in here stores a lot of rage. And ancestral rage. Our ancestors were upset at being eaten by tigers or whatever it is. So that's been with us for a long, long time. And as children, we pack it in more. Whenever we feel an anger and repress it, don't express it, we're pushing it down and building up that heat in there. Oh, one of the results of built up rage is lower pelvic inflammation and pain. Exaggerated PMS symptoms are the result of excess rage in the lower abdomen. And for men, prostate inflammation, very common in men. And that's, again, this rage expressing itself, this time as an inflammation and swelling in the prostate. Okay, so applying the Liberator in the same way and breathing out is a great way to do it. And just following wherever you feel additional pain, follow around and breathe it out. And you'll find some good spots in there, and it might take a few minutes to breathe them out, but just keep trying. And you might even have to do it over a few days because we carry a lot of rage packed down in there. We'll talk about that more when we get to the back. Okay, off to the left side, we have sympathetic relationships over here. It can be abandonment. Abandonment is a very important one that damages the pancreas and is stored as energy in this area. Betrayal. Betrayal is a very important one. We establish sympathetic relationships with people where we basically give up our own liberty and freedom, our own identity, in favor of other people's values so that they will protect and take care of us. And it's an illusion that we just believe that by giving up our own stuff, they're going to be obligated to take care of us. And then when they go change their minds and betray us and do their own thing anyway, we have this huge reaction in this side where we had created this illusion of safety because we're giving ourselves up. And so there's a whole lot of stored energy in here from the betrayal and abandonment, and simply applying the same way, applying the liberator and breathing out to release it is a very good way. Follow any pains you feel in the lower abdomen, work on them in that way. Okay, come back to. So we've covered basically the front of the body, and we're going to cover a little bit now of congestion in the tissue. If you have muscle spasm or muscle tension that just won't go away, stretching is obviously a good way to do it, and you undoubtedly have discovered that stretching and doing the breathing, like I showed you, while you're doing some sort of stretching, helps the muscles to release, helps them to let go of that excess energy. And where it's really stubborn, you can feel where the real stubborn tightness is and apply the liberator to that area and continue to breathe. And you'll find that the tissue, the muscle, relaxes a lot faster. So that's a very good method for any kind of stretching. If you do yoga and you have tight places in yoga and you want to release them faster, you can use this. Yoga itself, though, with the breathing, if you're patient with it, will release a whole lot of stuff. And that's one of the keys to the health promoting aspects of yoga. It clears out congestion that's stored in the muscles. Okay, now we also have connective tissue congestion, which is adhesions and that sort of thing. So if somebody has adhesions in their lungs or in their belly, let's take belly for instance, in the intestines they can get adhesions between different intestinal layers. Applying the liberator and then doing gradual stretching out that tissue, going slowly, you'll find that it's stretchier and that you'll be able to gradually pull apart the adhesions inside the body just by stretching and applying the liberator. It really is good at breaking up really stagnant energies. So adhesions and muscle spasm, it's a very, very good application. Okay, now we're going to look at emotional congestion along the spine. And for this, we had some discussion, and because of the nature of energy as we release it, it tends to flow up the spine. And you're going to see that as we go through this, that it's wonderful to release energy. At the same time, we have to give it a place to go. So that's why we worked on the front of the body first, to allow a way for the energy that gets up into the head to come back down along the front of the body back to the lower abdomen, which is really the storage house for energies. So to release energies along the back now, it's wonderful to start at the top. So we'll start talking at the bottom and work up. But keep in mind, if you have any feeling of tensions, you really want to release those tensions at the top of your back as you work down. But we're going to start at the bottom because that's the way I've organized my lecture. Okay, let's see. Start with plantar fasciitis, bottom of the foot. Really strong energy congestion, just an example where energy tends to get stuck in the bottom of the foot. Simply taking the little model and right there at the bottom of the foot, of course, We don't have quite the right size match, but the idea is simply applying it to the bottom of the foot will tend to dissolve heavy congestions in that area. And if you have particular congestions, like tissue might get really hard and tense and just sort of just not flexible and relaxed, applying the Liberator to the area, whatever area it is, can break up the stagnant energy in that area.
How do I know how much time should I apply the Liberator? To the bottom of the foot, for example.
Okay, if you feel a tightness, stagnation, discomfort, apply it until it dissipates. And if it doesn't dissipate in 10 minutes, apply it twice a day for 10 minutes for a couple of days, and you'll probably find that it dissipates.
Okay, thank you.
That's a pretty good. And for the tension in the legs, it's nice to lay down on a bed or on the floor, and you can just put it underneath the calves or underneath the upper legs, the knees, wherever it is you feel tension, and just let it work through the area. So that is a wonderful, relaxing way to do it. And the timing is, you can just get in bed and lay down and start to move it around. And until you fall asleep, you've done it the right amount of time. And if you leave it on all night, that's not a big deal because it's got 50, 60 hours of operation on a charge. So you can just charge it up the next day, and even if you leave it on 24 hours, it's still going to be running when you're done. So don't worry about leaving it on accidentally, falling asleep with it. That's not a problem. Okay, let's see. Now we're going to get into the spine. We're going to start with, here we go. We got a little spine here. And down here we have the coccyx, the tailbone. And then up here we have the sacrum. And then we're on to the lumbar vertebra. And the coccyx is associated with the first chakra. The sacrum is the second chakra. And then the lumbar is the third chakra. And so with what we talked about before about the limiting attachments at the diaphragm is associated with the lumbar, the third chakra. The second chakra, both the rage of the liver gallbladder side and the sympathetic relationships of the other side, that's all associated with the sacrum, the second chakra. And so we have energy, will, power coming up, being differentiated through the second chakra, wants and aversions, rage, whatever it is. And then it hits this L4, L5 of the third chakra. And that's where we say no. And so whereas we can see it in the belly, we also see it right here in L4, L5. And what happens at L4, L5, probably know that that's responsible for just about the most lost hours, lost days of work in the workplace of any condition, because there is so much repressed desires. So repressed anger, repressed everything. It's all being controlled, controlling one's own self. So L4, L5 commonly is inflamed. We have the inflammation, the heat coming up through the sacrum, and then the energy is blocked at L4, L5, and then we get a deficiency, a lack up above in L4, L area. And so we get the spasm from all that excess tension, and then we get a degeneration around L4, L5 area. And so we get all these opportunities for injury, the degeneration combined with the muscle spasm, compression of vertebrae causes impingement of nerves, sciatica, and that sort of stuff. So it's really this L4, L5 area, this repression of wants, this limiting attachments that is very much responsible for this whole complex in this area. And of course, simply laying on the bed You might want to put a pillow on each side of the Liberator and then lay on top of it and apply it. It's good to apply it from the top to the bottom, like we discussed before. You might start with any discomforts in this. Be prepared to do it for 20 minutes or half an hour, unless you're just focusing on a local area. Take your time. Any tensions in the upper neck and then along the neck, just leave it sitting there for a minute or 5 minutes until it relaxes, and then move on to another point, and just work all your way down through the thoracic vertebrae. If you find tension, ongoing spasm on either side of the thoracic vertebrae, you can stop there and just relax, leave it there for a while, either side or down the middle, and come down to the lumbar. All this time we're relaxing and allowing the energy to flow. And of course, what we're not doing is starting right where the rage is, because it will just fly up and hit the next area of blockage. We're starting from the top, opening the pathway as we come down. Okay, as we get to, it's very nice to leave it at each point for a minute or so and just move it along. And it's really interesting. You get a feeling of, as a area relaxes, you feel the area below it or areas to the side of it that feel discomfort, itchiness or something. Just go to the area on either side of it and give them a little treatment as well. So you're just breaking up all the areas of congestion you can find. And if you do it for a few days in a row, you're going to discover that there's a changing in the amount and the location of stuff. But there's quite a bit of stuff stored in the spine. We've been storing it for years and years and years. So be patient with it. Plan on spending several days, whenever you think about it, in this process of clearing. Particularly spend a lot of time in the lower lumbar, as we talked about, and the sacrum. And you can just leave it on the sacrum for a little while. The sacrum really is, you can see the curve. The sacrum comes out and it's a hard point of the body. So you really need the pillows when you put the Liberator under the sacrum, because most of the weight of the lower body is then being supported by the Liberator. So getting some extra cushioning on both sides is helpful there. And continue on down. Don't go clear down to put pressure on the coccyx. That's uncomfortable. Stay above the coccyx or move to the side of the coccyx. And also around the sacrum, you're going to discover the whole buttocks area has a lot of energy, and you're going to feel discomfort on the left side or the right side, and you can apply it as you go to a minute for wherever you feel any kind of discomfort on either side.
I have a question.
Yes, Maria.
You relate the coccyx, the sacrum, and the lumbar area with the chakras. Do you recommend to use the Liberator for clearing the chakras?
The Liberator is quite a penetrating device. And these different areas, the coccyx, the sacrum, the lumbar areas, are very physical areas. And yes, they are highly related to chakras. At the same time, they are physical and they store physical energies. Mm-hmm. They're very dense energies. And so the chakras themselves are very fluid and moving, and the Liberator is too strong for them. Much better to use the Infratonic 9 or earlier Infratonics. It's much gentler, more healing, more relaxing. The Liberator really is to get in there and liberate, to excavate. And so it's better to use where you really want to break up physical congestion, where you want to balance chakras and things. It's better to use a much lighter touch, like
the mobile medic, for example.
Sure. Mm-hmm. Okay. We have now liberated a whole lot of congested energy along the spine, and it's possible for energy to now be rising up. And we have some anger and rage coming up, and those often cause congestion wherever there is, or cause pain wherever there's congestion in the body. So one of the places is in the shoulders. And typically we might see frozen shoulder or chronic bursitis in a shoulder. And those are really dense energies that the Liberator is very good at. So for frozen shoulder, gradually, comfortably stretch and apply the Liberator to break up. It's kind of like adhesions. Gradually stretch and break up, and you'll feel the whole area relaxing. And also applying it to chronic bursitis. It's real hard to get to the bursa in the shoulder, and the Liberator is good at softening and breaking up that energy. Now, another important area, as the energy comes up the spine, it's going to hit a whole lot of tension that we have, not just in the bursa, but in the whole shoulder neck area. We carry a whole lot of pressure, responsibility, annoyance in the neck shoulder area. And when we start clearing the lower stuck energy, it's going to be liberated and able to flow upward. It's liable to hit the shoulders, neck area, and you're going to feel the tension there. It's not that the tension wasn't there, it's that now energy is trying to flow through. And energy flowing through is going to gradually heal the area, but it can be quite uncomfortable. So again, apply the Liberator liberally to the area to soften and break up all tension that you can find, side of the neck, all around, both sides, in order that your neck and shoulders be comfortable. Now, we're on to chronic whiplash. Of course, whiplash is a neck injury where you're usually in a car and get your neck jerked around, and the response is a tightening of the muscles. There's some injury in the vertebrae in that area, and the muscles tighten up to protect it. And they gradually tighten up over days and begin to compress vertebrae, compressing nerves, causing numbness in the neck and shoulders, down the arms and hands. This is not necessary. If you can use the Liberator, well, the Infratonic 9 is a good one to use at first, but if you really got a whole lot of really chronic, deep tension in the area, spasm in the area, that the 9 is not working with, the Liberator is very good. Also, if you have a whole lot of chronic neck and shoulder tension that you've been carrying for years and years, you are more susceptible to a whiplash. So it's because you have that energy in your muscles already in that area that's already tensed up, reactive, annoyed, all this sort of stuff. You get a whiplash, and that tissue is going to be really quick to tighten down and grab. And you're likely to have substantial additional problems from a whiplash. Some people can get in a whiplash and just cruise on through and not have a problem. Other people, every time they get even a minor whiplash, they just tense up and get the nerve numbness and the degeneration and all that sort of stuff. So if you have that syndrome of chronic neck and shoulder tension, the Liberator applied liberally to the area until it's soft, until the muscles are flexible, until everything is way softer than you ever imagined it could be. Then, if you get into a car accident or any other thing that's involved jerking the neck around, your muscles, your tissue are much less likely to react in spasm and in tension. And you're likely to have a much less problem with whiplash. So for protection against injury, this is a wonderful tool. So that's a great application. Now we have one other topic in this particular area, which is the throat. Now we have, again, the power in the first chakra, second chakra differentiating it to wants and aversions, and then we express our will through our voice, through our throat, through our words. And many people have a restriction in there, have a tightness, have a blockage. They feel choked when they try to speak. They feel judged. They feel all this kind of stuff, and it's a physical congestion that they feel. And so applying the Liberator is spectacular. And again, breathing, applying it wherever you feel tension and breathing, or better yet, speaking, singing, talking, feeling your voice, vibration from your lower belly, vibrate all the way up and feel it vibrating your throat. Applying the Liberator to dissolve all that tension and breathe it out. You'll find that you can speak your truth more easily. You'll be liberated to express yourself more. This is a very nice tool for most of us who feel restricted in speaking. Okay, and restricted in getting our way in the world, feeling repressed and all that kind of sort of stuff. Okay, now we've made it up, past the neck, clear up into the head. Now, there are many meditation practices that involve through intention and breathing in different practices. They call it raising the kundalini, or raising the energy up the spine. What we're doing with this process I just showed you is basically softening the pathway up the spine so energy can move more easily. And whether you apply a meditation practice or apply this method, you're liable to feel more energy coming up to your head. And it can be that you will feel heat in your head, a headache, dizziness, kind of weird sort of kundalini psychosis is the word that they use in Indian meditation methods. And so what to do about it? Here, the key, borrowed from the Chinese, is instead of having the goal of having the energy rise up to the top of the head, have the energy go in a circle up to the top of the head and back down to the lower abdomen, to about an inch below the navel toward the front of the body. It's called the dantian, or the lower dantian. Focusing your attention on there and breathing, mostly breathing downward along the front of the body. And put your tongue on the roof of your mouth to provide a conduit, a completed conduit for the energy to flow back down to your lower dantian. And then breathing up the back, past the neck, up and around and back down to the lower dantian, focusing on the breathing down the front to the lower dantian. And that's pretty good at relieving the headache syndrome, the discomfort, the excess in the head. So
that means that you will recommend it to use it to release these kundalini things on the head, to use the Liberator, starting at the bottom of the spine and going up, and then down to the front?
No. I'm glad you asked that. Okay, so what I'm suggesting is if you get that kind of a symptom, it is valuable to practice the breathing down the front. And the way you can add the Liberator to that is sweeping down the front. Sweeping along both sides and the center of the front of the body, just sweeping down, because as you do, you'll tend to open up the channels for the energy to flow more easily. And also it helps in a visualization to energy projected from the liberator. You can visualize it moving the energy down to your lower dantian. Okay, so we have completed the planned presentation. What questions do you have?
In what cases is not safe to use the liberator?
Like any massager, the liberator is contraindicated in cases where there's blood clots suspected in the calves. Oh. So that's standard for all massagers. Certainly not over pacemakers. Other than that, if you feel discomfort from the liberator, it's best to change to the Infratonic 9, the rejuvenizer, because that's much softer and will tend to spread the energies rather than to excavate the energies. So if you're feeling discomfort, don't go too fast with it. So that would be another precaution.
Good. And I have another question. Is it safe for children or to use in animals?
It is definitely safe to use in animals. And in children, the important thing to watch is any sign of discomfort. If there's a sign of discomfort, then don't use it. Generally, you won't need it in children. In large animals, it can be quite valuable. Where really, a horse, for instance, an elephant, penetrating in to move energies is a challenge. So it's nice to have the extra horsepower that the liberator provides.
Can you clarify really quickly the difference between the liberator and the rejuvenator?
Okay. Rejuvenizer is a softer device. It basically soothes, it's gentle, where you, in most cases of accelerated healing and reducing pain, what we want is something more like a mother's touch. Gentle, soothing, telling the tissue everything's going to be okay. Gently dispersing discomfort and that sort of stuff. What we found was that it's wonderful in most cases, and it's wonderful for accelerated recovery and for relief of pain. But there are cases where there is really heavy stagnant energy, and it's real hard to break it up in any way. So we looked for a jackhammer, a power tool to help people to break it up. And the liberator is what we came up with. It's got a strong ray that the magnetic field is carried along that really penetrates and shakes up the magnetic energy of the body. And so it's much more aggressive than the Infratonic 9. So it's something that is not as gentle, not like a mother's touch. It's more like a doctor's touch or a surgeon's touch energetically. So it's great to apply the liberator, and where discomfort is left, pain is left, whatever it is, apply the rejuvenizer to comfort it and relax it afterwards where it's needed.
And then when we have chronic things, like they don't go away, then the liberator will be better, right?
Where it is a chronic energy congestion, the liberator is better. So not necessarily a chronic anything, but a chronic like muscle spasm, the sorts of things that we talked about in this presentation, the liberator is very good for.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Maria, for being with me on this presentation and bringing up the points that we've been neglecting, or I've been neglecting. And I will say thank you all, everybody else, for joining us on this program. And if you have any questions, you can contact soundvitality.com, and we're here to help you. So we say goodbye for now.